in regard to KCPE. Bernardo Juang will be appraising us on the exams progress in Migori, and Lois Wangui will tell us what's happening on that front in Eldoret. And aside from that, we have Sharon Baranga, who's at in Langata, and where the president was earlier on, and shall be giving us a brief in just a bit. Julian Samboko is at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where the Taxpayers Day celebrations are happening. Sean Kadovilis will also brief us on what to expect on the sports. And before we get to him, just to let you know that we are going to be having a conversation in regards to the inaugural flight from Nairobi to New York, which happened just a few days ago, hence my background. So when you say we're on air today, we're on air as well with the conversation. But first, let's listen into what Sean has in store for us. Sean, what's happening on the sports world?
Yes, a very good morning to you. The latest on the Kenya Simbas. We heard yesterday from the PS for Sports, Kirimi Kaberia, Ambassador Kaberia, saying that the government is going to help out the Kenya Simbas. Of course, they've been appealing. There was a press conference last week appealing for funds as they get ready to play in the repechage. That's the final chance to qualify for the 2019 World Cup. And the team leaves this evening. They'll play Romania in a friendly before playing in the repechage, which begins, of course, from next week. So we'll have the latest on that. They leave today, the Kenya Simbas. We'll get the latest on that. They have a lunch, and we'll try and, of course, make it over there for the lunch and find out exactly what's happening from the Kenya Rugby Union. Are they receiving funding to make this trip possible? The other major story internationally, of course, you heard about the tragic helicopter crash that claimed the life of the chairman and owner of Leicester City. The team confirming that they will play their Premier League match this weekend. They're supposed to play tonight in a League Cup match. Obviously, that's not going ahead. The players and, of course, the fans are devastated losing their owner in such a tragic match after that Leicester City-West Ham match at the King Power Stadium. So they have confirmed they will play Cardiff in Wales this weekend in the Premier League. So quite a bit to talk about. Sports news coming up a little bit later right here on NTV.
All right, thank you very much, Sean. Looking forward to that. Definitely coming to us during the 1 p.m. bulletin. And aside from that, like we said earlier on, we have Sharon Baranga, who is at Uhuru Gardens Primary School. That's in Langata in Nairobi. And Sharon, President Uhuru Kenyatta was there earlier this morning, and he held prayers with them and encouraged the students. Maybe just give us a brief of what exactly happened for the sake of those who may not have caught it.
Thank you, Dan. It is the second day since the Class 8 candidates began their Kenya Certificate of Primary Examination. And right now they are writing their science paper. Afterwards, they are going to write their Kiswahili Lugha, then Insha later on in the afternoon. Now, around 8 a.m., just before the candidates settled to begin their exams, President Uhuru Kenyatta made a surprise visit to the school, which was met by excitement and a group of charged up candidates who are very happy to see the head of state just come to the school and wish them well during this time where they are sitting their national examinations. And President Uhuru Kenyatta was not the only one who was making surprise visits. We also had Deputy President William Ruto, who visited candidates at Musa Gitao Primary School in Kikuyu Town. And we also had Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i visit schools in Kilifi County. And right now I'm joined by the head teacher of Uhuru Gardens Primary School. Welcome on set, Madam. Kindly start by introducing yourself, then tell us, is it the first time that you're hosting a head of state in your school?
Okay, I'm Emily Omolo.
Turn this way.
This way.
No, this way. Please, this way.
Okay, I'm Emily Omolo, head teacher, Uhuru Gardens Primary. Now I'm the center manager. I've taught for some time, actually around 30-something years, but I've never had a head of state come and interact with children on the day of exams. Okay.
So how did this make you feel?
I felt privileged. It was a pleasant surprise. I think I felt on top of the world. I know I'll be seen all over the country.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you so much, Madam. According to her own words, she feels like she is on top of the world. And it was not only her, but we also had students who are feeling, encouraged that the head of state took his time to just come and wish them well. Aside from speaking with them on parade, he also went class by class and just trying to find out what their dreams are, what are their ambitions. And the students were very excited, sharing with the head of state on the different career paths they would like to follow once they are done with their education. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you very much, Sharon Baranga, who's in Langata with where the president was earlier on, and we shall be following up some updates on the same in regards to KCPE exams which are ongoing. And like we know, it's a nationwide exercise, and we know a number of people have been following this up. And Bernard Ojwang now joins us from the county of Migori. Bernard, what's happening there? Which school specifically are you at?
Well, thank you very much, Dan. We are here in Rongo Sub-County, Migori County. Remember, here in Rongo Sub-County, we have 98 KCPE centers, and each center is covered by the security officers. Transport, since this process started, transport is good, and no cases of cheating, and the process of dispatch started very in the morning at around 6 a.m. and the last dispatch was made at 7 a.m. in the morning. And remember, in Rongo Sub-County, we have the total number of registered candidates sitting for this exam is 3,271, with boys leading with 1,721, followed by girls with 1,550. And currently, we are just going to talk to Migori County Director of Education just to tell us so far how is the process. Join me here. Could you just please tell us how is the process since it started yesterday?
The process has been great. We have done well since yesterday to date because of a great preparation to the exam. All the officers who are involved or who are being involved in the examination were briefed at national level, county level, sub-county level, and school level. And all of us, therefore, are well prepared. Our candidates were prepared well throughout this year, and therefore they are actually expecting to do the exam, so there is no panic, there is no cases of cheating so far. We had a proper preparation for all the routes leading to all the examination centers, and therefore the process is continuing well. Yeah, we always start yesterday and today. We always start our exams on time. Yeah.
And the challenges maybe you are facing currently, because it is raining now.
Yeah, it's raining. That is blessing for the rain being here. But now we don't have a challenge so far because we have sufficient vehicles. Our deputy county commissioners, our county commissioner, together with all our stakeholders as they support education, he had already put in place all the parameters to ensure that there is no transportation challenge. Yeah.
Okay, we've made to understand that the number of we have a number of boys. We have 1,700 and girls low. What do you think about this?
Now, the question of the girl child is a challenge in Kuria region and parts of Nyatike, where there is still some challenges of early marriage. People say dropping out. But the candidature of girls have improved tremendously in the recent past. Therefore, it's a great appreciation that we are seeing that we are going to put down that challenge.
Well, thank you very much. Dan, speaking there is Migori County Director of Education. And right now, as I told you, their security has been tightened here. And if you just allow me, I'll just speak to Rongo Sub-County Security Chairman just to tell us how is the security? Just to be shortly, could you just please tell us how is security now?
The area is peaceful and the security is adequate. Every center has security personnel.
Voila.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, Dan, you've heard they are saying that security is tight and they are going to make sure nobody is engaged in cheating during this process. And remember, we'll be moving around. We'll be moving to Migori, Awendo, so as to give you more information for our subsequent bulletins. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Bernard Ojwang, and we shall be coming back to you for more updates. And like you know, this is being funded by taxpayers' money, and the taxpayer is the one who's giving the money, and the government needs to implement some of these plans. And aside from this now, in relation to that, actually relevantly, is that today is the Taxpayers' Day celebrations happening in Nairobi at the KICC, where Julian Samboko is. Julian, thank you for joining us this morning. Any progress so far in regards to the event, and what are we expecting from your end?
Thank you very much, Dann Mwangi. We are live from KICC, where we are having the Taxpayers' Day. President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to be the keynote speaker. Also speaking just before him will be the Treasury CS, Henry Rotich. Right now, delegates are just arriving at the forum as we have a bit of entertainment in the background. A number of factors are expected to be deliberated here. We are expecting the unveiling of the National Integrated Scanner, which is expected to help the Kenya Revenue Authority to track revenue from cargo which is coming into the country. We know that there's an ambitious 3 trillion budget which is expected to be financed, and some of the factors which will be focused on here is the aspect of tax compliance. We know that the budget 2018-2019 is projecting about 1.9 trillion shillings in revenue collection. So the KRA has its job well cut out to show how it is going to mobilize the required resources to finance the key items in the Big Four agenda. So we're expecting the Kenya Revenue Authority to give us a raft of measures which will be in focus now for the financial year which has just begun. The President will be here as well. He'll be speaking to the issues of the tax base, perhaps, which have been quite in focus. We know that the country's fiscal position has come under considerable focus, with the deficit being said to be too big. So how to trim this and how to raise the revenue to be able to finance government expenditure both on the development side and the recurrent side will be key issues of focus in today's forum, Dann.
Thank you very much, Julian, for that brief. And I mean, we had seen President Uhuru Kenyatta was up early before when he went to inspect the matters, what do you call it, the KCPE at Uhuru Gardens Primary School. And Julian, I know a number of times there have been the questions of whether the taxman is going to, collect as much money as is expected. I'm sure you'll be looking out to see whether there'll be any kind of indication on whether they're actually going to hit the target, because over the years they've failed to hit the target.
Yes, Dan, revenue mobilization performance has been a matter of grave concern. We know that there are a number of measures which are proposed in the budget in terms of tightening the leakages. One of them is what I just mentioned in terms of the National Integrated Scanner Center, which will enable the tracking of cargo such that there is no avoidance or evasion of taxes in this particular item. So how to seal the leakages is likely to be the focus of the discussion today, and perhaps how to rope in more people into the tax base to enable the revenue kitty to continue growing. Done.
All right, thank you very much, Julian Samboko, who's coming to us from the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where we have the Taxpayers Day. And as we look into our diary, this is one of the first things we're looking at in today's diary. What you expect to be happening today, and one is, like we've just come from citing and highlighting, that the Kenya Revenue Authority hosts the annual Taxpayers Day and luncheon in Nairobi. The event is organized every year to honor distinguished taxpayers. This year's winners will be recognized for exemplary tax compliance in the year 2017. The ceremony is to be officiated by President Uhuru Kenyatta, CS to the National Treasury, that's Henry Rotich, KRA Chairman Francis Mudhaura, and Commissioner General, that's John Jiraine, among other guests from both the private and public sectors. Now, the highlight of the event will be the launch of the KRA Integrated Scanner Command and Control Center, which is a web-based integrated solution that assimilates all KRA scanners with an aim of monitoring their operations. The center is expected to help improve customs detection capacity and help secure the borders. The European Union, the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, as well as Housing and Development, Urban Development that is, and the Kenya Urban Roads Authority today launched the Muratina Street in Eastleigh, Nairobi. For those who know what Muratina is, it's interesting to see the name that has been given. And this is part of the celebrations marking the Global World Cities Day, which aims to promote the international community's interest in global urbanization, enhance cooperation among countries and cities in meeting opportunities and addressing challenges of urbanization, and contribute to sustainable urban development. This year's theme is Better Cities, Better Life. The local event seeks to create public awareness on the importance of improving public transport facilities to help in building sustainable and resilient cities. Also today, the World Bank launches the Ease of Doing Business report. The bank says 6 African countries, including Kenya, have done very well in the ranking. This has in the past been a point of pride for the government, with the Trade and Industry Cabinet Ministry using it as an indicator for improved performance in making trade easy. As highlighted, KCPE enters day 2 today. See what I did there? Day 2 today. Now, nonetheless, President Uhuru Kenyatta was at the Uhuru Gardens. Again, you see what has happened there again. Uhuru Kenyatta at Uhuru Gardens Primary School, where he inspected the papers, spoke to the pupils, and stood in for the prayers before the papers. Other government officials were also at various parts of the country, ensuring the examinations are above board. Those are some of the things we're monitoring today, which are having events, specific events to them. But the other things we're also keeping an eye on, and one of them are the developments in Dandora following an uproar by residents where that police may have executed innocent people over the weekend. 6 people were gunned down, among them a candidate. Residents claim 4 of them were innocent. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority has launched a probe into the shooting. The police may speak about it today as we wait. Here are some of the sentiments the residents who spoke to us earlier had.
Waisi walikuwa wawili na hatukatai walikuwa wameiba kipikipi na waliuliwa siku hiyo, lakini hawa wengine 4 ni watu wenye hawana hatia.
Na alikuwa afanye exam na sio mtoto mbaya.
Jana kufungua mlango aliulizwa, wewe ndio ulikuwa juu ya miti lala, akapigwa risasi hapo na akakufa.
Kuja karuka, kwa hiyo mabati akaruka kwa nyumba kwanza kina kapara. Kuruka huko hivyo ndani, wakakuja wakazungukia na hii nje huko hivyo, watu wote nje wakaambia laleni hapo chini, laleni hapo chini. Watu wakalala, wakaanza kushangaa shida nini mbaya, unajua walikuwa washamka tu, ndio wameamka asubuhi. Laleni hapo chini, wakaanza kulala, walianza kupigiwa kwa nyumba hapo hivyo ndani. Kutoka nje kulala hivi hadi nilikuwa nafikiria pengine wanataka wafanywe ransack. Waangalie kama kuna bunduki yote wako nayo ama nini. Mimi nasikia risasi pa hadi nikafikiria ni crossfire, maybe wanafuatana na wengine huko. Kumbe ni hao ndio walikuwa wanashutiwa hapa chini.
Majirani wanasema wakati alienda kuambia wao si waizi wanauza viatu, alipigwa risasi ya mkono. Kupigwa risasi ya mkono akatolewa nje. Askari mwanamke alikuwa amesimama pale. Kutolewa nje ndiye alikuwa anawamalizia. Akawaua wakiwa 3.
Wiki moja iliyopita Nairobi peke yake watu 17 wameuawa na polisi on 1 week. Sasa tunauliza ni polisi ya serikali na polisi kuua vijana katika mitaa duni ama ni nini?
Tungetaka haki itendeke. Wasi wanaua watu kiholela hivyo kwa sababu hakuna haki ya Mkenya.
They want the law to be applied and the killings stopped. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
All right, today we know that what's been happening, one of the largest things that happened across the weekend, apart from the Moshi edition in the county of Nyeri, was the inaugural direct non-stop flight of the Kenya Airways. That was KQ002 from Nairobi to New York, from JKIA to JFKA. And this was pretty historic for many, and the president of Kenya, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, flagged it off. And it took about 15 hours. It was flown by our very own pilots, by Kenyan pilots, and there were 4 of them on that flight. And it came back, that's KQ003. And interestingly, the American ambassador to Kenya, the US ambassador to Kenya, that's Bob Godek, was on those 2 flights. He went there, they lay over for about 3.5 hours. Then he came back to Nairobi. And that's part of the conversation we're having today. That forms the conversation in our studio, not only here, but also in the county of Mombasa. And we shall be getting some of your sentiments across the board just to understand what exactly it means for us, because we have already had it going. There are a number of things that are happening. And so before we cross over to Mombasa County, let's first begin in studio with Tony Watima, an economist and columnist. Thank you for speaking to us. Tony, first and foremost, on the general view of it, what are the potential opportunities that we have here? What's the promise held in this flight, with these flights?
I think we'll increase our numbers in terms of tourism. We are around 9% of Americans coming to Kenya. Also, we are trying to establish ourselves as a hub. So KQ plays a major role in trying to brand Kenya as a transport and logistics hub. So it's a good thing for us. We will want to see the numbers from there. What I'm not sure is about how to maintain the daily flights. It's quite expensive, and the revenue margins for passengers are very low. So we'll want to see when freight cargo will start moving in, but I'm not sure how we can maintain daily flights. But it's a good thing that we've opened up that market, so we expect more returns.
Okay, and interestingly, there was a lot of hype around it.
Yeah.
And so some people were like, is it that big? Is it that our dreams are about getting to America? Someone actually said, I saw someone saying, so like that village boy who has finally gotten a chance to go to America. Why is it such a big deal that we had to have all this fanfare, all this resource put into it?
I think there was hype also, but I think the biggest thing that we can take is that it's a vote of confidence in terms of our security risk that we've been facing about our country. That the Al-Shabaab risk is quite real in Kenya. So when you get a vote of confidence from the United States that people can fly in, it gives a major pointer that you're trying to mitigate your risk in terms of security risks. So that will be my biggest thing, that in the celebration, we are getting a vote of confidence from the Americans and the whole world. People will see that our airspace is quite safe.
Okay. And when we think about the returns that are eventually going to come, do we have any kind of indication of how long, ideally, we should think about some good returns coming in?
I'm not sure, because we'll need to do a simulation about that. The returns, in terms of airlines, the margins are very low. So I don't expect to see that we will make quite a number of returns very early. If you look even at revenue of KQ, around 60% comes from freight cargo.
Yes.
So we'll want to see how they balance that revenue. But in terms of passenger, if we're maintaining passenger daily flights, it means that it will take a while before we get that kind of returns that we will expect to see in terms of all this hype that we've seen.
All right. And what different countries, because many may think it's only the States.
Yeah.
What other opportunities do we have, in terms of other countries and trade with them?
I think one of the main things that this route opens up is the Caribbean side. It takes you around, you take 3 flights by the time you get to Kenya, if you're coming from Jamaica, Bahamas, and all those kind of things. So since New York is close to those Caribbean side, one of the main things we'll want to see is the opportunities that are opening up in the Caribbean side in terms of trade, in terms of transport and all those kind of things, in terms of branding ourselves as a tourism place that people can visit on those places. So one of the main things is to see how we open up more places using this route.
Okay. Yeah. And Tony Watima is not the only person we are speaking to right now. We're also going to be speaking to Mohamed Hersi, who's the chairman of the Kenya Tourism Federation. And he's coming to us from the county of Mombasa. And Mr. Hersi, maybe you can hear me right now. What exactly should we do to ensure that we don't get the negative influence of we've seen, for example, with the Chinese coming into the country, we've seen some negative impact of that because of that access. And so, what does it mean for, how should we shield ourselves from getting any kind of negative influences from America, for instance?
Are you talking about the Chinese or the American?
The sense that we've seen with the Chinese having a lot of access to Kenya, there has been the negative influence. So how do we then shield ourselves from any kind of negative influence coming from America, considering there's increased and eased access to Kenya?
When you look at it, the American market is not something that is new to us. The Chinese market is new. And Chinese are big when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to also numbers, when it comes to tourism. So when they decide to visit a place, they cannot be compared, to the West, because they can really run over, a destination. And a good example is Masai Mara. So it's up to us at the end of the day to put checks and balance and to ensure that no one, whether it's Americans or it's Chinese, will run us over. I think that's very important, and that goes back to the rules and regulations that we set on how we want to do business. Even developed world, they also have barriers when it comes to doing business in their own countries. So we should do the same.
All right, and something I just asked Tony Watima just not too long ago, because some people may not understand why it's such a big deal. That, we had so much fanfare around this. Maybe just from where you stand, why is it such a big deal for Kenya to actually have this direct access to the States?
The direct flight to the US, we have all the rights to make it a big deal. Because one, America is not just any country. America is virtually a continent and is a very developed country for that matter. And we have had relationship with them for many, many years. They are the leading tourism numbers coming to Kenya, more so when the UK numbers went down due to the travel advisories that were issued 2 years ago. Although the UK numbers are now building. The economy of the US is also big. We have over 115 million people who are able and who are willing to travel outside America to explore the rest of the world. When it comes to yield, the American tourist worldwide is known to be a good spender. They leave more dollars behind compared to any other source market. Now, in the past, if you are to get from America to come to Kenya, it meant that you have to go through continental Europe, and mainly you have to go through London or Schiphol, and lately they've been going through Dubai, which means that you have between 8 to almost, 12 or even 14 hours waiting to connect to your final destination, which is Nairobi. And that is a very, we all know what it means when you're waiting to switch to another airline to go to your final destination. So in this case, if we are having a direct flight like what we have now, it means that you just hop in at JFK and within 14, 15 hours, directly come to Nairobi. And then technology has changed. We have a very modern aircraft, which is very comfortable. And it means that straight away you can start on with your safari. So it is a big deal, whether it is business side, whether it is tourism, and we have all the reasons to celebrate. And we should go out there, and take advantage of it.
All right. And what have you as a private sector done to ensure that you've readied yourself for this this new market, these new opportunities? What have the private sector players done so far?
I missed the last bit, Ken.
I'm just asking, what has the private sector done to prepare itself for these new opportunities?
I don't seem to be getting that. Is it challenges? Is it studies?
Let me try this one more time and to see whether we'll get you. But I'm just asking, what has the private sector done to ensure that they can prepare themselves for these new opportunities through these direct flights?
Oh yeah, we've worked very closely with the government, both the Ministry of Transport. We work closely with the Ministry of Tourism, and specifically Kenya Tourism Board. And on the other side, we are working with our American partners and agents so that we position ourselves. And if anything, more than 50% of the users of this particular airline, when it comes to passenger numbers, will realize these will be tourists. These are people that our agents will be booking them from America, to come to Kenya. So we've done a lot. Also, we going out on road shows to show the Americans that it is now easier and affordable to come to Kenya. And it's not only Kenya, remember. We are complementing each other with our neighbors, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda. So we will also grow our own hub, which is JKIA, which means that you come to Kenya, because Americans are not very keen on beach, but we want to change that perception so that they can start extending after their safaris to go on a beach holiday. So it means that if you're coming to Serengeti, you're coming to the Ngorongoro or the Manyara, you're coming for gorilla trekking in Kigali, it means that you land in Nairobi, which now just goes ahead to reinforce the importance of JKIA and Nairobi as a hub in the region. So for us as private sector, we've played a big role to make sure actually it works, because without the private sector, the flight will never do well. So rest assured that as private sector, we've invested both money, we've invested energy, we've invested everything in this particular flight to make it work. It's a daily flight. We know that it is not easy. It is very challenging to fill. Some are saying, why didn't we start probably with 3? But I think it is very ambitious of Kenya Airways to do that. And we have no choice but to support them and support them fully, to make it work, that we have full load going out of Nairobi and coming back, to Kenya as well.
All right, Mr. Harris, just stay with us. We'll be coming to you in just a bit. But first, I want to bring it back to Tony. And we know the trade deficit, the trade imbalance between Kenya and the U.S. is about 12 billion shillings, yes, in advantage of the U.S. We have the direct flight now. What else needs to be done to ensure that we can actually, narrow this gap, as opposed to it being an opening for more resources to be siphoned in the other direction?
I think one of the main things about this KQ flight is that we, in terms to increase volumes, not really the value of our imports. that our exports that we're taking to US. So it's because we cut the cost of transport and logistics. So it means that our value goes up in terms of our flowers, tea, and all the other export products. So one of the main things that we'll want to see is that the export value is going up because of this flight, because you've cut the cost of transport. The other thing is that we've not taken a full advantage of the AGOA Act. So accessing the US market using the AGOA Act. So we'll want to see on how private sector comes in and takes advantage because of the logistics that we are trying to shorten in terms of hours that we move our goods. We'll want to see that more private sector taking up the AGOA opportunities, so we increase our exports and reduce our deficit.
Do you foresee, us going the Rwanda way?
In terms of what?
In terms of AGOA, because Rwanda, we got to a point and start saying we don't want too much to do with.
We might go there, but my
do you think it would be wise to decide that we want to?
No.
It would go against what we're doing now.
No. It will be a dangerous path that we should not even think about it. No country develops in terms of protectionism, that you try to feed on your industries alone. Countries grow because you have large access in the global market. So you open yourselves in terms of opportunities, and then that's when you can industrialize. But no country industrializes in terms of their local market alone. So it would be a very dangerous problem, like the Rwanda way, that we're trying to move out of the AGOA Act. And these are huge markets that you are trying to access with huge value and volumes. Then you try to consolidate yourself within your own local market. It will be dangerous.
And we now also have the opportunity to have the likes of Brand Kenya and the Tourism Board being at the forefront.
Yes.
What do they need to really tap into first and foremost?
I think they need to relook at their model of advertising and branding and marketing Kenya, because for a period now, the numbers have not been quite impressive. If you look at the investments in terms of marketing from the Brand Kenya and the government sector itself, compared to the returns that we are making. So we'll want to see them, how do they rebrand Kenya with a different model. In terms of, one of the main things is that they say it's access to funds that you can use to market Kenya. We'll want to see how private sector plays the major role, not really government itself, but private sector comes in and plays a major role. You look at South Africa and Tanzania, they're investing huge in terms of capital investments within the travel and tourism. So we'll want to be at par with them, and so we need to mobilize funds, because government alone cannot mobilize funds. So private sector has to play a part. So Brand Kenya and those other affiliate organizations should open a role in how private sector can come in and chip more in terms of marketing Kenya.
Okay, and I just want to bring again Mohamed Hersi, who's the chairman of the Kenya Tourism Federation, to just give us a few more insights in regards to this whole issue. And Mr. Hersi, if you can hear me, we have a number of cases where we find Kenya is still trying to grapple with this deficit, the trade imbalance. And I've just spoken to our team about it right now. Against the US, the trade imbalance is about 12 billion shillings. What do we need to do to make sure that it narrows to our advantage, as opposed to moving farther away from us and more favorable to the US?
I think one of the key players when it comes to balance of trade is to make sure that we export as much as we can to another country. And in this particular case, unfortunately, it is unfavorable to Kenya. But tourism is considered an export. Is considered an export. In that case, if we get more numbers coming to Kenya, and do remember that the tourists coming from the US are high-yield tourists. These are people who are willing to pay $1,000 a night in some of the boutique properties across the country, whether it is like Laikipia, whether it is somewhere in Savo East, whether it is somewhere in Masai Mara, name it. But another key thing may not be tourism, but this is something that as a Kenyan that I know, and is something we should encourage, is that for the first time, we are able to export our excellent fruits and flowers to the US in a faster manner. Because in the past, when you have to hold our fruits and vegetables in, let's say, in Amsterdam or London or even via Dubai for hours, remember every hour you hold a fresh produce, the quality drops. So if we're able to cut those 8 hours where produce will have been sitting at some airport to wait for transit, then it means that the farmers, the exporters are able to earn more. And if I'm not wrong, the other day they said that they'll be cutting down on and about 25 to 35% of the existing cost simply because of the direct flight, which means that we should be able now to compete effectively with products, especially from Latin America, countries like Ecuador, countries like Colombia, or even Brazil have been exporting a lot of stuff to the US. So now we are positioned, and when it comes to flowers, again, we are made to understand our flowers are far better quality compared to what they get from Latin America. So all these things put together, in my opinion, I think will really help us to close that gap when it comes to balance of trade.
All right. And something you'd actually alluded to earlier on is about the direct flights being daily. Is it really sustainable to have daily flights at this point? What are the numbers that kind of would justify this kind of thing?
Say that again. You said the number of flights, or you said the number of passengers?
No, I'm just saying in terms of having direct flights being a daily, happening daily. Is it really sustainable? And what kind of numbers would justify a daily flight kind of routine?
I think Kenya Airways is led by a great team who must have done their study. What we need to remember is that when we do the direct flight Nairobi to New York, we are not just looking at people who are domiciled in Kenya. Kenya Airways has positioned itself as an African airline, and by virtue of our location, we are 4 hours from any other corner of Africa, whether it is West Africa. And remember, there is a very large number of West Africans who reside in the US who like to come home. As much as Senegal, Nigeria, or Accra, that is Ghana, have direct flight, they don't have daily flights. Some of them are twice, some of them are 3 times a week. So it means that ours is the daily one where you're able to hop onto it and then connect. And that's what Kenya Airways has always done extremely well. Because of our location, you can 4 hours to West Africa, 4 hours to any part of Southern Africa, and of course the East African region. So that places us in a very, very good position to exploit this particular flight. So the daily flight may sound a little bit uphill, but considering that we are looking at the continent of Africa, and Africa is large, West Africans have got something very special with Kenya Airways. They're more attached to Kenya Airways as opposed to other airlines. We've spoken to them. These are people we've met. These are people we speak to. Even when you read, in the media, West Africans proudly like to share themselves with Kenya Airways. Anytime they would love to go through JKIA, and obviously we need to treat them well, and they proudly fly Kenya Airways as opposed to a flight through Dubai or a flight through Doha, because a lot of other factors come into being, things like visa and what have you. And now that we've also opened up our borders, especially to our African brothers and sisters, that it is visa on arrival, then that becomes much easier. So any West African or any person from Southern Africa will have no reason whatsoever to avoid their JKA. So it's upon us, as Kenya and also our government, to make sure that we treat our fellow Africans well, so that when they are at the JKA, they are not harassed. Remember, they also have options. If we don't treat them well as they will happily and quickly switch the competition, and that's not where we don't want that to happen. We don't want officers on the ground to undermine all the efforts that have been made by Kenya Airways. It is not cheap flying to New York, and we have to make sure that it works.
All right, and Mr. Harris, you talk about competition, and just staying on that competition conversation, in regards to a place like Tanzania, what are you as the tourism operators, tourism sector players doing to ensure that we still stay ahead, and more competitive and more attractive than, say, Tanzania? We've had our trade spats, and we've seen some people choosing to go to Tanzania as opposed to come to Kenya.
I think I've heard this debate and this conversation many times about Tanzania. I do not look at Tanzania as a competition. I look at them as a neighbor. They have stuff that we don't have, and vice versa. When we reduce the debate to Tanzania as competition, when you look at the numbers that are visiting Kenya and Tanzania, let's give each other even 1.5 million and give even Tanzania 2 million. We're looking at most 2.5 million tourists. In the last 1 year, we've had 1. Hello?
I'm listening, I beg your pardon. Sorry, yes.
Yes, I'm saying that when you look at the numbers visiting Kenya and the numbers visiting Tanzania, between the two of us, we are not talking of more than 2.5 million tourists or even 3 million. Give Kenya 1.5, give 2 million to Tanzania if you so wish. That's 3.5 million. Now, in the last 1 year, we've had 1.35 billion travelers around the world. In the scheme of things, we are nothing when it comes to numbers. So we're debating whether Tanzania is better than Kenya is simply put, it's like two dwarfs, competing with the tallest. So in my case, the way I look at it is that 40% of the tourists going to Tanzania, which is the Ngorongoro Manyara circuit, they already land at JKIA. Remember, Tanzania don't have an international airport close by to Ngorongoro. The closest is our JKIA. So we actually complement each other. And these days we actually combine. You do Nakuru, you do Mara, and then you end up with Ngorongoro and Manyara and Serengeti. So we are supposed to complement each other and we can move together. And my prayer, and this is the push we've been making, is that one day we hope that Tanzania will see the need to join the single visa team, because we already have Uganda, we already have Rwanda. But Tanzania, for some reason and for some reason known best to them, have opted to stay out. And my appeal to Tanzania is that don't look at the $50 per se, look at the $5,000 a will-be visitor will come and spend. Because a tourist who is coming to choose Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania combined is far better than the one who's just coming to Tanzania alone. So to answer your question, yes, we need to stay ahead, but I will not limit ourselves just to looking at Tanzania or Zanzibar for that matter, because competition, when it comes to safari, we have 6 other destinations. We have Zambia, we have Zimbabwe, we have Botswana, we even have South Africa. So competition is big. When it comes to beach destination, we are looking at 38 other destinations across the world, and that is big. So the picture is more than just Kenya and Tanzania.
Okay, and in studio I'm with Tony Watima, who's an economist as well, and I want him to come into this conversation. And Tony, do you feel that enough is being done to ensure that we stay ahead of Tanzania, for instance?
I would like to agree with Mr. Hersi. It's quite an optimistic view that we need to look at Tanzania as partners. The issue is that about Tanzania is that they don't look at us as partners. When you talk about one visa for tourism coming into the region and branding ourselves as a region, when you're trying to market the region itself, we don't see Tanzania playing a part, as Mr. Hersi says. We have Rwanda, Uganda, and the other countries. We would want to see that Tanzania plays a bigger role in terms of our partners in the East African region. We market Kenya as East African region as one tourist package. So my question will be, maybe, I don't know how much government has done in terms to convincing Tanzania in joining this, but what would be the role of private sector, Kina Hersi, and the Tanzanian private sector itself? What kind of lobbying are they doing in terms of getting this one package?
So Hersi, that's for you. What are you and your counterparts in Tanzania trying to do in lobbying to ensure that there's better relations between Kenya and Tanzania? As private sector, that is.
The relationship between Kenya, when it comes to both private sector, many of us actually operate sister companies, and we have good relationship and good partnership with most of the travel agents and operators in Tanzania, especially in the Arusha region. So we are working with them very closely. and there is no any animosity. Even when we go to trade fairs, we cooperate very well. Even now, when we get, when you're selling a package, and we go out of our way, to sell a Kenya and the Tanzanian package where people actually cross over. Our wish should have been that Kenyan drivers are able to, or tour vehicles are able to cross over to Tanzania with ease without any problems, and vice versa. But obviously, Tanzania have never been comfortable with that, and we just hope that one day they will see the need of open borders, and as long as we have clear rules and regulations governing how we conduct our business, I think it can work, and it can work really well. So when it comes to relationship, on private sector, we have excellent relationship. The only thing we need to do is to try and see whether we can throw that, there's a little icy when it comes to policies on their side. They're not very keen, really. Like even when you look at the Masai Mara, we are being forced to take a longer route by road instead of opening, the gate that is just bordering the Serengeti, so that we can just cross over. So these are some of the things that needs to be done, and we just hope and pray that it happens quickly, because if we work together, it means that more people are able to visit, and more people are able to enjoy what Kenya and Tanzania have to offer. Remember, these boundaries are just boundaries that came in the other day. When it comes to nature, just look at the world-based migration. They don't know any border. They leave Tanzania and they go back to Tanzania and come back to Kenya as they so wish, and that's how it's supposed to work. When we put too many barriers, then what happens is that we simply undermine the destination, which is both Kenya and Tanzania, as a competitive destination. And remember, we are not alone in this business. We have Botswana, who are running a very strong tourism product. So is Zimbabwe. Despite all their challenges, these guys run a very tight ship when it comes to good tourism, especially on the safari circuit. Zambia is coming out very strongly as well, and so is South Africa, that has always been in the game. So we are not alone, and if we continue getting fixated with some 2 million numbers or 3 million numbers between the two of us, I think we are losing out on the bigger picture. My dream is, and our dream is, to see to it that Kenya and Tanzania join hands, and we are able to package, the entire East African region, from Uganda, Rwanda, including even Burundi, as a region. And now that Ethiopia is opening up and is more comfortable with us, Ethiopia is very strong when it comes to culture and historical places. So you can imagine an American tourist going to Ethiopia, and they do a 10-day or a 7-day tour, and they end up in Kenya and Tanzania. That's the sort of stuff we want to do. South Africa have done it very well. You get an Australian coming to South Africa, and they do an entire SADC countries. They do Botswana, they do Zimbabwe, they do Zambia, and they go back through Johannesburg. And somebody will spend 21 days. Okay. That is what East Africa should be fighting for.
Okay. Watima has a question for you.
Yes. I want to ask one question, is that about airlines. We see Uganda is bringing up their own airline, Tanzania is bringing up their own airline, Rwanda Air is also there. In terms of tourism, in terms of boosting tourism in the region, how well can these airlines play a major role in that?
I think the more the merrier. The way I look at it is that it's the pride of any country to have their own airline, which I think is fine. Again, running an airline, I'm not in aviation, but the little I know is that it's a very expensive affair. That's why you see very few airlines. Even in America, there's really no national airline. All those are commercial airlines. So I don't think it's really a smart move for every country to try to own an airline. If anything, I think one day it will be the dream. You can imagine if one day Ethiopia, Kenya, and South Africa merged and formed one strong, united, African airline. How strong we can be. We are talking of it for countries. We are talking of 1.2 billion people. We are talking of an entire continent that has not been explored. That can be huge. So what happens now is that if we all we will be spreading ourselves too thin. But it's also okay if Uganda have formed their airline, they will start being regional. Kenya Airways will be the international connector. You bring in people to Nairobi, and then they will be connected from here going to the other African countries, which in my opinion, I think it's fine. There is more yet to be discovered. When you look at the African airlines, traveling between other cities within Africa itself is very, very difficult. If you are to land, let's say, even in Tanzania itself today, and you want to fly, let's say, from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza, it's difficult, it's not easy. Even for Kenya, just the other day, that we are able to do comfortably Nairobi to many other towns. It is very important one day that 60–70% of our towns are actually covered by an airline. And that's what we should be looking at. And we are happy that a lot of low-cost carriers, have come into play. We're able to see an airline like Silverstone that's now able to bypass Nairobi and connect Mombasa directly to Kisumu. And that should be the future, where we are able to fly in from one town to the other. And then even a better way is one day you are able to fly from Mombasa directly to Dar es Salaam or Mombasa to Kigali, which is already happening. So all these barriers will eventually have to come down. And the more, the merrier, because when you are more, it means that when there are more airlines flying from one destination to the other, it means that the buyer has a choice, and buyer will be able to get that price thing. When you look at Nairobi and NTV, used to be almost $400, but now that more airlines are applying that route, all of a sudden it has come to below the $200 mark. And that's the way to go, because flying has been made to be a class thing, which is the wrong way to grow any economy.
All right, thank you very much, Mohamed Hersi, who's the chairman of the Kenya Tourism Federation, for speaking to us on the same and just issues around tourism. And he's also the group director of operations at Pullman's Barber Beach Resort. Thank you for speaking to us on NTV Today. And we shall be keeping the conversation going with Tony Watima in studio as we go ahead. But before we go there, let's do another spot check briefly on the KCPE examinations. And before we get to see all the other people we have on the ground speaking to us, we are going to be crossing over to Bernardo Juang in just a bit, because just to remind you, this is the second day of the KCPE examinations. It's a big day, and it must be very uplifting for the pupils rather of Uhuru Gardens Primary School, where President Uhuru Kenyatta had gone earlier this morning. And we remember that Sharon Baranga gave us a brief on that, and so it's a big day for them. We have many other senior state officials who've been in different parts of the country. CS Fred Matiang'i has been in Mombasa, in the Mombasa County, and we shall be getting that brief later on. And aside from that, we also have Amina Mohammed, the CS for Education, was at Uhuru Gardens Primary School as well, where the president was. And we even have, in the county of Kiambu, we had the PS for Education, that is Bello Kipsang, who was there. So we've got a number of these senior state officials who are pretty much showing that they are on the ground and showing that they are present and ensuring that they can, they're ensuring that the credibility of the examinations is not compromised. So speaking of KCPE, I now cross over to Bernardo Juang, who is in Rongo, and that is in the county of Migori, to have a brief conversation on that end with an update of what's happening there. Bernard.
Well, I thank you very much, Dan. As I told you there before, in Rongo sub-county, we have almost 98 KCPE centers, whereby we have, in the whole sub-county, we have 3,271 registered candidates sitting for this examination. And as I told you there before also, that security has been tightened so as to ensure that no cases of cheating are reported until the end of this process. And joining me, we will be talking to Rongo sub-county county commissioner, so that he tell us more about security process. Join me here. How is the security process now?
The area is peaceful and the security personnel is adequate. Every school is covered, every center is covered. Yeah.
Since the process started, any cases of cheating?
No incident. The area has been well organized in everything, including transport. We have not witnessed any cheating. Yeah.
Okay. According to the register, the number of candidates sitting for the examination, we are getting that young girls have not come out, at least for this examination. We have high number of boys sitting for this examination. Maybe what do you think is the main problem here?
We have tried, in comparison to what is there right now, 1721 against 1550. Our girls are also coming up, and we have really preached in Parasas to make sure that parents take their children to school, especially girl child. Yeah.
The transport system.
The transport, we have more than necessary. We have very many vehicles. Others are just waiting. There are standby vehicles. Yeah, our area is well endowed with the departmental vehicles as well as school vehicles. Yeah.
We are seeing you moving around each and every school. Maybe how many schools are you targeting today?
We want to move at least as many as we can cover, but not less than 12. Yeah.
Well, I thank you very much. Speaking there is the Rongo Sub-County Deputy Commissioner. And joining me is another lady. Join me here. Could you just please tell her, you are the supervisor. How is the process since it started here?
Everything has been good. We've not seen any challenge. The candidates are composed. And the exam is running on smoothly. Yeah.
Any challenges maybe are you facing currently since you started this process yesterday?
No, things have been smooth. I've not faced any challenge up to this moment. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Dann, speaking, there are the Rongo security officers here in Rongo Sub-County and even the supervisor of this school, Bridge International, and they are saying that things are moving on smoothly. And you've heard from the Deputy County Commissioner, Satya, speaking, they are saying that they are targeting 12 schools and they will be visiting so as to ensure no cases of cheating reported here till it will come to an end. And remember, what they are saying, that they are warning those people who might have that intention of trying at least to participate in maybe cheating, not to try, since security officers have been deployed everywhere to ensure things are moving on very well here in this sub-county. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Bernardo Juang, for that brief and that conversation. It's interesting how the security chief there says that they have more than enough transport. I don't know if it's a case of wastage or it's just a matter of expression. Not for me to know. Take a short break on NTV Today. My name is Dann Mwangi. We'll come back after this with more conversations and more live coverage of the different things that are happening across the country. Welcome back to NTV Today. My name is Dann Mwangi, and we just want to give an idea and just a hint of what exactly is happening, the different events happening today, what you should expect in terms of developments. And first and foremost, the Kenya Revenue Authority hosts the annual Taxpayers Day and Luncheon in Nairobi. The event is organized every year to honor distinguished taxpayers. This year's winners will be recognized for exemplary tax compliance in the year 2017. Did you pay your taxes? Otherwise, it's going to be the people who are nowhere close to that list. The ceremony is to be officiated by President Uhuru Kenyatta, CS, the National Treasury, that's Henry Rotich, KRA Chairman Francis Muthaura, and the Commissioner General John Jiraini, among other guests from both the public and private sectors. The highlight of the event will be the launch of the KRA Integrated Scanner Command and Control Center, which is a web-based integrated solution that assimilates all KRA scanners with an aim of monitoring their operations. The center is expected to help improve customs detection capacity and help secure the borders. Also happening today is at the European Union, the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, and the Kenya Urban Roads Authority, that's KURA, launched the Muratina Street in Eastleigh in Nairobi. This is part of the celebrations marking the Global World Cities Day, which aims to promote the international community's interest in global urbanization, enhance cooperation among countries and cities in meeting opportunities and addressing challenges of urbanization, and contribute to sustainable urban development. This year's theme is, quote, Better Cities, Better Life. The local event seeks to create public awareness on the importance of improving public transport facilities to help in building sustainable and resilient cities. I believe the launch of Muratina Road is a new high. Now, the World Bank launches the Ease of Doing Business report today. The bank says 6 African countries, which include Kenya, have done very well in the ranking. Now, this has in the past been a point of pride for the government, with the Trade and Industry Ministry using it as an indicator for improved performance in making trade easy. And yet again, another reminder that KCPE enters day 2 today. President Uhuru Kenyatta was at the Uhuru Gardens Primary School, where he inspected the papers, spoke to the pupils, and stood in for the prayers before the papers. Other government officials were also at various parts of the country, ensuring the examinations are above board. And President Kenyatta, like you could see there, was during the prayers, and he spoke to the pupils for a bit. He was flanked by the school principal. We also had the CS, Amina Mohammed. Let's listen in for a bit.
Many more events which you will have to overcome. So you don't have to feel that you're under pressure, yeah, to do anything that is wrong. Just do the best that you can do. All right? Yes. And my promise is that so long as you've done your best, every one of you will find a place in secondary school. Okay? And as I told you out there, I'm going to ask you to do your best. Right? Okay? And to be happy with your best. So long as you have prepared well, so long as you've studied, yeah? That's all that is required, yes? Okay? So we're wishing you success and offering prayers as well, yeah? Okay? Good luck, everybody. Thank you. God bless you.
You know, the president was leaving one of the classrooms because he went to a number of the classrooms where the exams are being sat. He actually fist bumped, or those who may not know fist bumped, Aligota, one of the pupils there. And that is quite inspiring, I believe, for those young guys. I don't know whether some of us who were in the 844 system who know that 844 is largely about cramming. If anybody comes to talk to you before the exam, they throw you off. You might end up writing their stories in your answer sheet. So I hope that the president's visit did not throw off these children. Hopefully they did not get to be thrown off, because 844, as it has been known, is not the best in terms of retention of information in some cases, where we have a lot of cramming. People who crammed and went and just regurgitated what they've read. And if you do the same exam 2 days later, you're not likely to get the same grade. And so before he said he got a go, he got a kid. Now, aside from that, we are also keeping an eye on developments in Dandora following the uproar by residents there that police may have executed innocent people over the weekend. 6 people were gunned down, among them a candidate. Residents claim that 4 were innocent. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority has launched a probe into the shooting. Now, the police may speak about it today. As we wait, here are some of the sentiments the residents who we spoke to had said.
Na waliuliwa siku hiyo, lakini hao wengine 4 ni watu wenye hawana hatia.
Na alikuwa afanye exam, na sio mtoto mbaya.
Jana kufungua mlango aliulizwa, wewe ndio ulikuwa juu ya miti, lala. Akapigwa risasi hapo na akakufa.
Kuja karuka, kwa hiyo mabati akaruka kwa nyumba kwanza kina kapara. Kuruka huko ndani wakakuja wakazungukia na hii nje huko hivyo kwa watu wote nje, wakaambia laleni hapo chini, laleni hapo chini. Watu wakalala, wakaanza kushangaa shida nini mbaya, unajua walikuwa washamka tu, ndo wameamka asubuhi. Laleni hapo chini, wakaanza kulala.
All right, we're also keeping an eye on the debate on county revenue allocation. Now, Mount Kenya leaders want more from the national cake, but does the math add up? The Commission for Revenue Allocation seems to agree. CRA says the two formulas used for revenue distribution have been unfair to other regions and should be changed. According to Commissioner Peter Gashuba, who is part of the newly constituted commission, they are in the process of coming up with a new formula that would be in use for a period of 5 years before review, as the other two are transitional. And we are keeping an eye on that. And just to pick up on this, I want to bring in Tony Watima into this whole discussion about the revenue allocation. Yeah. Do you feel the Central Kenya MPs are justified to ask for more resources, feeling like they're marginalized?
I think it depends on how they pitch the argument. To some extent, they might be true. To other extent, it might not be true. But the context that you look at it is that when they are factoring in this, they look at poverty index, they look at marginalization and all that. So you start, the first is population in terms of the formula, then there is in terms of development of your county, there is the equity share, so there's quite a number of parameters that is used. And the number one is about population. So there are other things like resources that you have in your county and all those kind of things. So in the context of that, I find that formula, it's not really unfair. The biggest thing is that how do we try to ramp up the guys who are being marginalized with other kind of funds. In terms of revenue collection, in terms of your county, there is the equalization fund and all kind of things. So how do we try to balance these things? But for sure, there will be no formula that everyone will agree. Mount Kenya will say this when they get their share. Guys in Western or Nyanza, people will come up, or Northeastern, people will come up. So we need to have a sober debate about what kind of formula and how do we balance itself. But we can't have a formula that everyone will agree.
Because the argument is that, you know, some of the naysayers against the Mount Kenya region legislators, excuse me, are saying that these guys have always had the advantage. So is it now that they're going to claim marginalization or otherwise? Is it to say that this is more of a political statement, but the reality is when you look at the numbers, there's actually some merit in the argument?
Yeah, there's a merit in the argument. And one of the biggest merit, even you look at poverty index, it's not that Mount Kenya are doing very well in terms of trying to fight poverty. So the poverty index, there is some pervasive kind of poverty within Mount Kenya as other countries. So these kind of arguments also, they need redundant in terms of infrastructure. They will need to revamp up the new infrastructures. But the biggest problem that even how we got it here is that the equalization fund that was drafted, that was put in the constitution, came only three years ago in terms of funds allocation itself. So it hasn't been implemented for some years before. So we'll have seen countries in the marginalized areas, semi-arid and arid areas, trying to come up together. So the moment these countries that were low, the counties that were low, come up at par, so we can now find a better formula on how to distribute fairly. But now we have a problem that we are caught out of time in terms of bringing to par the other countries that were below. And then we are seeing now new grievances from Mount Kenya, and other people will come up. So will be a biggest problem. So we find ourselves in a fix that we'll have averted earlier.
And jumping over again to what's happening at the KICC, where we have the National Taxpayers Day, and KRA has consistently been unable, or has just continually not hit its target.
Yes.
What needs to change to make sure that we actually hit this target? Because the budget is only going to keep going up unless some very unconventional thing happens.
Yes.
So what needs to be done to that so that KRA can actually stop being seen as the consistent annual failure?
Yeah, that's true. We've put KRA in a fix. So we've given them very huge, ambitious target, which everyone knows they will not achieve it. You look at the budget, we look at the budget increases every year by around 500 billion. You look at revenue is increasing at the best of 100 billion every year. So in terms of saying that you're catching up on your spending and your revenue, it doesn't match up. One of the main things that we've advocated for is that can we draft our budget itself according to the economic growth? We look at also the revenue generation in terms of economic growth. Like for last year, we've had a slowdown. But you look at Treasury has given KRA targets, very ambitious, like the economy is growing very well. But
are they disconnected? Does it seem like they're disconnected? That
exactly, yeah.
The person giving the directive and the person who's implementing.
Yes.
You know, I tell you I can only carry 10 kgs.
Yes.
But you keep telling me carry 15.
Yes. That's the biggest disconnect that we have, because we are living in a bubble. The reality is that any country should adjust their budget and revenue according to how your economic growth is. So it makes more sense, it's evidenced, and you can properly plan. So the moment you plan for bigger expenditure and you don't get those revenues, it means that there are projects that you will hold back. And there are grievances that people will feel that you're trying to disenfranchise them because of that. So we need to live in the reality that we say this is what we can get and this is what we can afford to give you guys. So how do we manage ourselves that? So that disconnect needs to be addressed very seriously by the Ministry of Treasury, because there is no way, there is no sustainability that we are doing this. There is no end to this trajectory. We need to have a sit down and say that we need to live within our means. This is what we can generate, and this is what we can afford. If you look at the first quarter of the 2018-2019 numbers that have come out, you look at revenue projection, the revenue that KRA has tried to get, it's very low. And if you map that out and you look at in the end of our financial year, we probably get 1.3 trillion. Treasury expects KRA to collect 1.7 trillion. 1.78 trillion. So we're probably having 400 billion out. We will not achieve that. So, and there are projects that have been marked for this. So how do you go back and tell, you know, there are political consequences to that.
Yes.
So how do you go back and tell people we don't have this revenue because we cannot deliver these projects because we don't have that revenue? We need to live in a reality that this is what we can achieve and this is the money that we have.
Okay. And speak about, you know, revenue and the likes, and getting back to KQ once again.
Yes.
KQ has been improving.
Yes.
We saw
Yes.
a number of years when it hit the all-time low.
Yes.
In terms of loss of almost 30 billion shillings.
Yes.
And do we see like this route will give any value in terms of pushing it, or is it going to take time before it can actually start having its significant contribution to the bottom line?
That's an important question. You look at KQ's losses, it's not a financial loss, it's an operating loss. It means that you're running huge overheads that you cannot sustain yourselves in terms of running the airline. There are too many bills you're being paid, and so the money that you're getting, even if it's big revenues, cannot match up that you can make a profit. You look at revenues of KQ, we have one of the best airlines. I keep telling people they are best airlines in Africa. The revenues are huge, you cannot compare with any country. People talk about Rwanda Air, Ethiopian Air, those are national airlines. And I liked what Herse said, that the commercial, you know, if these airlines were commercial, you can benchmark on what is going wrong within your airline. You find these are national airlines that if they were to buy 20 planes today, that bill will go to the treasury of that country. It doesn't go to the books of accounts of that airline. So you can't map. So if you look at KQ in that perspective of a commercial airline itself, without much government support in terms of operation, we have a very good airline that we need to work on. So operating loss that we're having within KQ takes time to get out of it, because you have to trim down your expenses slowly. By the time now you become sustainable. In terms of these new direct route to New York, when you have daily flights, it means you're increasing your overheads, because it's very expensive to run daily flights to such a distance. So you look at KQ at the point that they're having an operating loss, and then you bring another airline, another route that you're operating daily. It means your overheads are going very high. You will have to justify that by big numbers of passengers who are coming. One of that, we haven't seen that projection itself yet. But you remember that I think there's one route in China that KQ tried to do a daily flight, and they later cancelled it. I think it was Guangzhou or where, because it was not sustainable. So I will expect it that, as many people have said, they start with a three-day a week. Then you can try to look at what are the trends. Then you try to adjust. But starting from the top, digging from bottom, then it doesn't make sense much. But because the current status of the airline, it doesn't allow it to take much overhead. So I'll expect them. I'll be optimistic at this point that they will have the numbers to maintain that daily flight. Okay, and Kenya has been largely, when it comes to the tourism aspect, yes, has been beach safari. Yes. We are yet to really fully tap into others like cultural. Yeah. Because when you look at, say, the northern part of Kenya, for instance, and the northwestern side of it, there's a lot of culture there. We have culture, like our default culture is Maasai. Maasai, yeah. When we have this, we have the Maasais jumping and, doing their thing. Yes. What needs to be done to ensure that we can grow our tourism? Because these direct flights, potentially bringing in more tourists, need to come and get more than just beach and safari. Yes. Well, that's true. You talk about culture, selling our culture. We cannot run away. The default is Maasai. So we can brand ourselves as one of the packages that you can have the Maasai experience within Kenya. So if you talk about Maasai, it's known everywhere in the world. It's Kenya and all those kind of areas. So I'm not sure how, probably the restrictions about flight and all kind of things in terms of attracting people who want to explore this cultural aspect. I'm just saying we need to, how do we increase our product pool? Because it seems we are largely beach and safari. Oh, okay. So if you talk about the culture, especially Maasai, you will look at guys who do the Hollywood guys and all those kind of things. People who do the documentaries and all kind of things. You look at that segment itself that can help revamp the tourism side. There are too many restrictions in that area in terms of trying to set up, in terms of taxes. You will pay taxes according to the equipment you come with. You will pay a fee to a number of government institutions and all kind of things. That is one of the main things that helps South Africa, because many guys, even advertisements from Kenya are shot in South Africa. So what kind of things can we do for Kenya? The other aspect will be that we have a sports tourism advantage that no one talks about and no one tries to market it. You talk about Eldoret to Uasin Gishu. We have many guys coming and trying to train there. There are guys who come and try to witness what is the miracle behind this area that is producing very top athletes. We have huge athletes, the number of athletes who are very professional, who train in Uasin Gishu. Those are the things that we need to sell out there as a sports tourism package. And one of the main things that we need to bring in counties in how do they package such kind of a thing, because you will expect Elgeyo Marakwet, Nandi and Uasin Gishu to come up with a package of sports tourism. Sports tourism, exactly. So we need to see that kind of thing. There is also ecotourism. There are quite a number of packages that we are not seeing being implemented. We have also seen medical tourism starting to come up in Kenya. I'll give you an example that somebody from Europe was saying that it's expensive for them to get an operation of the eye in their country back at home. But it's cheaper for that person to come to Kenya and go to the Lion's Place in Loresho. It cuts half the cost. So we have those things that people don't look at, small things that we can package ourselves as a medical tourism hub. Within Africa and all those kind of competitive advantage that we have with the eye clinic and all kind of things. So we have a huge pool of products. It's only that we need to find ways on how do we push them out there, that people understand what exactly is Kenya about in terms of tourism. And what then, as we even think of growing our tourism, there's opportunities opening up with this new flight and the likes, the impact or the perception based on corruption. Yeah. People will be reluctant to come to Kenya and say that I may need to give a bribe right at the airport, for instance. Yes. The perception. Yes. How big a blow would it deal on these kind of prospects? When you talk about tourism, you at the same time talk about travel. The people talk about travel and tourism. So those two aspects go together. When you have a problem like a problem of corruption, scourge, especially at the airport point of entry, it gives a very negative picture. I had a friend who was coming the other day, and somebody asked at the airport, can I give you a 3-month visa and you give me something? So the question he was asking me, as Kenyans, do you feel that there is a problem here because it's something that occurs and no one does anything about it? These are the things that, in terms of immigration policy, we need to check on kind of things, because it gives a signal. You know, when you have those corruption numbers high, you have the levels of corruption and all, it gives a negative signal. It's a signal out there that there is a serious problem in this country, so you will have to part ways with an amount of money. Not even at the airport. Many things will come up when you're in that country. And one of the main risks that we have is corruption itself. Especially look at South Africa experiencing a security risk. It's quite, the tourism numbers are going down because of the security risk in terms of the robbery, crime rate going up and high. We need to find a ways on how we take advantage of kind of things, and how do we learn from them that these are serious consequences that you're having in terms of risks in your tourism sector.
And on the flip side, we have the purge, the ongoing war on corruption, which is led by the president. That would inspire confidence in, would-be investors and tourists as well.
I don't think so, because first, we haven't seen a conviction. We're just parading people before the court.
But do the international guys know that? Do they see that far, or do they largely see that there's a lot of effort? We are seeing people losing their jobs in the government. The president has spoken about it. Or do you think it's not enough to convince someone?
For somebody out there doesn't look at our news every day, so you may not understand all those kind of things that we are trying to fight. But the biggest thing that we'll need to see consequences. That you talk about, there are people who funds have been frozen out there. Like Nigeria, people talk about Nigeria, we talk about fight against corruption. Sania Bacha's amount of money, huge amount of money in Switzerland has been frozen. People are not using it. Those kind of things that we'll need to see in terms of consequences that people are facing in terms of the country. You talk about somebody within the airport is giving a bribery, there are quite CCTVs and all those kind of things. Somebody is being prosecuted immediately, or somebody is taking action immediately from the management side. So those small things need to add up. But we need to see a serious fight, because this thing is systemic. We need to see that fight coming down, that everyone can see there is a serious fight against corruption from the top to the bottom side. Yes.
Right. And some of the pictures we're seeing there from the KQ, from a KQ plane, and this is not live though. I wish you could have the capacity to go like that kind of thing. But it also brings the aspect of the quality of service.
Yes.
The quality of service, be it on the flights or otherwise. And speaking of the flights, that's the experience, because usually people who would afford this kind of a flight are not people who want to be treated in a wanting way. I spoke to Michael Joseph, the chairman of KQ, the other day, and he's very firm on saying that KQ is one of the best we have around, something that you've also said.
Yes.
But there have been concerns about delays. People feel, I can't rely on KQ to get somewhere on time.
Yes.
But he says that's inevitable sometimes.
Yes.
Do you feel that, it's only a case of the delays are explainable, or some of them are just a systemic issue there?
Okay. I did my internship at KQ, so I have a little bit of an experience there. It's true that the airline is a service industry, and one of the main things is about how you handle customers, your customer service. KQ has had that problem about delays, especially in terms of cargo loss, in terms of those kind of things, which add up to a review, a very bad review about your airline, and that those things matter in a service sector. In terms of service, as you said, KQ is one of the best airlines, and it's not the way they've branded itself. It's more of a leisure, a top-class airline that you enjoy the best services. But you look at delays and all those things, there are even costs that come to KQ itself, because when you have a delay or you cancel a flight, you have to house those people. You house those people in a five-star hotel. At the time that I was in KQ, many years back, was in the accounts department, and the thing was that they used to spend around 600 million in terms of those delays and housing people up.
In a year?
In a year. You can see those are the consequences that in terms of customer service that you do. So one of the things that KQ will need to work on seriously is their customer service, especially for this route. You are getting new customers, people are getting huge reviews and all kind of things. You are competing with the best airlines in the world. So what makes you stand out of them that people will favor you? So customer service has to be the core of KQ.
And actually, I think even as we continue our conversation, maybe we can try and get that interview that I did with Michael Joseph, so we can run it. Not right now. I'm sure they're putting it together.
Yeah.
But even Michael Joseph admits that, you know, they need to do a bit better on that.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And he also argued, you know, the comparison with like Ethiopian Airlines is inevitable, but they have different kind of funding and the likes. So what's your view in regards to the comparisons that we have between KQ and ET and the likes?
I say it's comparing apple and oranges, because that's a national airline and this is a commercial airline completely. Government only comes in terms of equity, the way we did, and they took shares. The complete operations of KQ are completely independent. You look at Ethiopian Airlines, they talk about huge revenues. And you know, if you want to see, if you do a forensic thing, if you always do a forensic thing, and you'll want to see somebody cheating, you will see that within a sector, one person stands out. You look at the airlines within Africa, especially commercial airlines, the profit margins are very slim. So when Ethiopian Airlines comes and tells you they made, I think, huge profits, tells you that there's a problem there, because that's a national airline. So most of the expenses, you cannot differentiate the balance sheet of Ethiopian Airlines and the treasury. So they can move the expenses on the treasury side and say government was funding that. And then you continue with the same, these are our revenue and these are overheads, we've made this profit. KQ doesn't enjoy such kind of a thing because you're completely independent, you're listed and all kind of things. So you will be comparing two things that are not in the same place. It's the same thing as Rwanda Air that everyone is talking about. Rwanda Air is changing the airspace of Africa and all kind of things. It's not. If you look at even in terms of investment that Rwanda has done, Rwanda has taken around 100 billion Kenya shillings in terms of debt, setting up the airline and a conference hall. That has moved their debt to GDP by almost 20%. How can an airline give you returns to pay that? It's impossible. So we need to compare commercial airlines as commercial airlines and national airlines and national airlines. In terms of a commercial airline, we have a very good airline. It's only that we need to see there was a mismanagement at some point, but we are seeing that there are efforts to try and bring it back to the previous days that it enjoyed.
And so when we say that KQ is one of the best,
yes,
what are the parameters, or what are the elements that you're looking at that would justify it to being, you know, the best, one of the best?
One of the main things is that you look at revenues. KQ has almost more than 50 billion in terms of revenues. For an airline, getting revenues of that kind of amount is very difficult. You look at, the problem is you cannot compare Ethiopia because you're not sure about the numbers. But if a commercial airline in Africa that is commercial, you look at that airline, it cannot get that kind of revenues for an airline because airline is very competitive, cutthroat competition. And then your numbers are slim. So you have to do very big turnovers to get huge revenues. Second is you look at customer service and reviews that you get. KQ has enjoyed the reputation of and awards as one of the best airline in Africa in terms of service, customer service, and in-flight services that you receive. So those things add up. It's like a hotel. You get a good review in terms of your in-flight service. It adds up that people see that to your airline that we can consider. Another thing is that you look at cargo. KQ has the biggest revenues from cargo in all countries. Cargo is what brings airlines money. So KQ around, I think, 60%, the last time I checked, 60% of their revenues come from cargo, then 40%. So you're able to mitigate passenger because passenger, you have slim margins that you operate in, you're able to mitigate that with cargo. So in terms of a position as an airline, we have a very good airline. By the time you build an airline to that extent, it takes a while. So we're in a very good place that we need to just restructure ourselves, and small things here and there and we'll work, especially the workforce. The problem, especially with KQ, they have a very huge workforce, but no one talks about it. They need to trim down those workforce.
And face the wrath of the union again.
The problem that's a problem with economics because there are people that will feel disadvantaged on this side, but the reality is that we need to revamp this airline. That we'll have to slim down. You talk to the union. If it grows, then we'll need to add up other customers, because if airline grow, we have to pick up other people. But we cannot sustain an airline with a huge workforce, but it doesn't bring revenue. So we're just killing what we're trying to build. Yes.
Okay, and you had actually earlier on spoken about, and I know Mohamed Hersi also spoke about it, in regards to having daily flights to the US.
Yes.
It may not be sustainable. Maybe just explain for us on that. Is it that you don't think we can get enough people to be traveling to and from the States daily?
There's those two arguments. Because maintaining, you need, you say daily flights. You need a number of airlines, a number of airplanes. So it's not, if you do three flights a week, it means you have little planes that you will want to fly on that route. So this route specifically, you have the Boeing 787. So you dedicate the best planes on that side. So if you don't have planes, it means you acquire other planes for that route. Then if you're doing a daily flights, it means you have to operate, because you cannot go the same plane and come back today. So you'll have to balance planes. So it means that your cost of operating on that route has gone up, not the normal one. Second is that you'll need to justify that every day those flights are full. That's the only thing that will make sense, because you will have to be competing, especially in terms of pricing, with people who operate on that route for years. So you'll have to come down a little bit on your pricing. So if you come down on your pricing, it means that all those planes, 24, you have 240 every trip. You'll have to have it full so that it makes sense to make it sustainable for a period of time. Then you stabilize on that route. So starting point will be the problem in terms of stabilizing in that route, getting numbers and all that, and justifying a daily flight every day. What Hersi says that we have Senegal and Nigeria. That was the main thing that I'll want to ask KQ. What is different apart from a non-stop flight daily that people will use KQ every day and not go to Senegal and Nigeria? Even Ethiopia flies to direct flight to US.
Yes.
So what's different about KQ? Those are the main things that they will need to look at there. One is their competitive advantage, try to analyze your competitors and all kind of things. Then how does this route daily make sense to you that you can beat them on that route?
Right. And very interesting, because the discussion about KQ, ET and the likes keeps coming up.
Yes.
But when you talk about pricing,
we've
got people, I know of a rich man who said it's cheaper to fly to Dubai than to fly to some destinations in Kenya.
Yes.
Why? And what needs to change? Is this still the same issue with our manufacturing, where fuel costs, for instance, are high or otherwise? What could that be about?
Yes, there's an aspect of fuel cost. Fuel is quite expensive in Kenya and all kind of things. Especially look at the new VAT that we brought on petroleum products. It also affects the jet fuel that airlines use. The other thing is that in terms of pricing of KQ, if you look keenly about the pricing of KQ, there is a huge component of taxation. That's one thing KRA needs to give them an incentive of, because a lot of taxes go in terms of ticketing of KQ. A lot of money goes into taxes. You cannot be competitive compared to the Middle East airlines that are heavily subsidized. You cannot be competing with them when government is taxing you to that extent. One of the biggest problems that KQ has in terms of pricing is taxes. And we have yet to see government talk about that, or even KQ management itself trying to ask for a tax incentive. Like, give us a period of 2 years in terms of a tax reduction so that we stabilize, especially down that they're having a losses. You give us 2 years that we reduce our taxes a little bit, we stabilize. Then if we are able to establish ourselves better, then you can come for us.
But how practical is that? Because the same government, is the taxman is still yet to hit his target, even with all the taxes on KQ so far.
But there's a double whammy here. Government has taken loans in terms of revamping this airline, because they're investors themselves, so they need their return. What does that mean? That how do you maintain that? You make sure that your return is there. You'll have to make these investments work. what does that investment work mean? You will have to give a tax incentive. That is one of the main things that everyone does. You talk about government has taken a guarantee of other loans from banks and all that to revamp KQ. It's around 40 or 50 billion. You need to justify that airline can bring back that money to banks and everyone. One of the main things that our large government is a tax incentive to KQ in terms of when they're trying to stabilize. They streamline the operations and all kind of things, work on many things, but a tax incentive can go a long way also in trying to stabilize the airline. So it's only a short period of time. You can give them 3 years, you stabilize, then we come for the revenue later.
Okay, and just to remind you that yesterday the former IEBC CEO, that is Ezra Chiloba, was implicated in the procurement mess at the commission, that's at IEBC. And the acting CEO, Marjan, told the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly that Chiloba opted for direct procurements against the board, or that is the commissioners. And this includes 4 billion shillings tendered to OT Mofo for the 2017 general elections. And today, the chairman, that is Wafula Chebukati, is before the Public Accounts Committee and is currently speaking. Let's listen in to see what happens there.
Directly from the vendor was reported.
Which date is it?
I'm not pretty sure.
I think that's should be plenary minute number 175.
Minute number 175?
Yes.
Do you have copies of those minutes?
Mr.
Accounting officer, when I see you, just confirm if you have them with us. And guide us to where they are.
Go ahead, Chairman.
I would like the sets of the minutes, all of them from January to December available.
And this one is number 170?
179 is also, 175 is also available.
Of which date?
Is it 175? This matter came up, I think, several times. It's turned to be... Yes, that's 175. The date is 18th of March 20. I think better we refer to the extracts of the minutes, but that's minute number 175. Maybe, Chair, at this juncture, perhaps I would want to bring up an issue that came up yesterday, just in relation to the same issue. And I'm informed that you directed that minutes of the commission from January to December be availed to this committee. As a commission, the minutes include all the other issues other than procurement and finance issues. And most of the issues are not relevant to this committee. As a commission, we are of the view that what we should supply this committee is the extracts related to finance and procurement, which are actually available, and I think they are on the way coming, because we feel that other issues which are not relevant and in the presence of the media may put the commission in a situation where a lot of other issues may be generated.
So let's address one issue at a time.
Yes.
Are the minutes there or not?
The minutes
as directed by the committee yesterday, are they there?
As we speak,
in this meeting hall.
I think as we speak, the CEO can the minutes were being photocopied at the time we were coming, but as a commission...
No, that one you get into after you solve the first issue.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Marjan, where are the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, the minutes were coming together with the bundles of... I believe some of them are even coming together. They are coming together with the bundles of the responses. This is a set for one member.
Okay.
Each and every member must have these as annexes.
So are you saying that set contains all the minutes? That
no, the minutes are separate.
Okay.
This is just for the because also you also asked for vouchers, you asked for names of the directors and all this. So those ones are coming together.
Okay. Mr. Chebukati.
Yes, sir, Chair.
Are you implying that you want to be allowed to give us extracts. We call them extracts of the minutes.
What I'm saying is that in each minute, which is relevant to issues of audit, of course, we have the minute number and the relevant pages related to issues of audit and procurement. And I think that's what is the issue before this committee. Now, there are many other aspects of the minutes which, if they land in the media, of course, it generate other issues. For example, let's say you have specifications, say, of ballot papers, which are part of the minutes. And if they land in the media, then, of course, the commission will be taken back because you are dealing with issues which are of confidential nature. And I believe this committee, your chair, you can revise your direction so that we give you what's relevant for purpose of proceeding before the...
We can consult.
Chair, from a perspective of the need for confidentiality and to protect what would be overriding interest, I would understand where the chairman is coming from. But before we go there, we need to understand what is it that the commission could have done in plenary that would be secret. Because so far, everything the chair has said, including the specification, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chebukati, I thought those are matters which once you've decided, then usually would be in the public domain. I think before we consult, I'd have wanted to hear a little more what is that aspect of absolute confidentiality that is not in the public domain.
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. The confidentiality has nothing to do with what fears in the commission. We are not fearing anything. The commission, of course, is a public body, but every public body has deliberations which don't necessarily have to go to the media. And even this parliament, you have sessions where you have meetings which are in the camera. So what I'm saying is that there are many other issues other than procurement. In fact, procurement could be just about 10%. Why do we need to go into irrelevant matters to this committee?
I would be happier if perhaps you went further and indicated to us that in specific minutes, you have got specific issues that we don't want to be made public, and therefore we would perhaps ask us to allow you to keep them out of the public view. But then, just 1 second. But then, your application seems to be general in nature. That we just allow you to extract matters which are related to procurement, and yet you don't even know what other matters we want to delve into that are related to what we are pursuing. So that's the difficulty we are finding ourselves in. Yeah.
You know, Mr. Chebukati is a senior advocate, and he knows, and he was my colleague, that the presumption the Constitution makes is that every information held by the state or any state agency is public, under Article 35. And there must be justification for making it confidential. That's why, for me, I was asking, so that in our deliberation we would understand not just the general previous principle of every state document being private. That is what the Constitution changed. So now the presumption is in favor of every person accessing it under Article 35. So for me, I would completely agree with you, Chairman. But you need to explain something, not just that it might have deliberations which don't concern procurement. Because as far as I know, under Article 35, anybody here or anybody outside here could still access them if they sought it under Article 35. You know.
Chairman. Yes, Honorable TJ Kajwan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Today we have woken in good moods. We want to have a very good engagement with you. So let us not start with a lot of procedural technicalities that will unnecessarily, mar the meeting. It is true that you could have documents which are confidential, but you should have got to the chair earlier before the meeting and explained to him that these are some of the things that I have. And looking at them, I think that I should have a camera discussion with the committee, whether or not you want us to expose these things. That is how things are done. You meet us behind the scenes instead of meeting us in the press. So, but you see, we are beginning with an argument. Even those minutes themselves are not here. They are still on their way coming. So maybe you are just making this these remarks. You are just making so that you can buy time for the documents to come.
Honorable TJ,
the
chairman Chebukati did call me actually about the same, but I'm done who directed him that I cannot listen to such an application outside the meeting. You must bring it here.
So what you need, if you strongly feel, Chair, if you strongly feel that there are documents which are private in nature, you can request us to listen to you in camera, and we will see those documents and we will make a decision whether or not they are of such nature. But you see, when you have them there, we have not seen them. You are claiming that they are private. We are unable to make a judgment on it. So you should formally ask us to recede in camera and discuss that issue.
And Chair.
Yes, Honorable Ono first, then
Yes.
Honorable Junet.
And I guess, Chair, maybe the chairman meant to say that they are too bulky. I do not think the secrets are really there. If he talks about bulkiness, you may have to consider.
He didn't say bulkiness, unfortunately. Honorable Nakulem.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I have no intention of contradicting the position of my colleagues. It is indeed true that any information held by a state corporation or a public body is meant for public consumption. But as a committee, for purpose of relevance and saving time, I would request that we narrow ourselves to those parts of the minutes that are relevant to us. So if there is the need of us getting into the nitty-gritties of what has not been availed, we still have to go for it. And also would require that our chair indulges with the chairman of IBC to get us that information which he feels are not good for public consumption in the eyes of media, for us to have a feeling of them.
Let me hear Honorable Macau and then Honorable Junet.
Chairman, from where I sit, maybe the chair has a good point to be listened. You know, 2017, August 8th was a botched election, and maybe the minutes were in that particular minute, so I understand. Maybe we might listen in camera.
I can't hear you, Honorable Macau. Yes. What are you saying?
When the chair says there are matters that are very confidential, and from where I sit, 2017 August 8th, it turned out to be a botched election. Maybe the chairman is swearing in that plenary they discussed something that needs not to be in public domain. That's my take.
We shall get to that. Yeah, Honorable Gentleman.
Chair, sorry for coming late, Chair. Chair, I want to ask the chairman of the commission, because I don't see what is this that is fearing, that if we see might be very bad. I'm still internalizing that one. But the matter is, there are issues that were raised in this audit query. And what the committee is interested in is just minutes pertaining to those queries. Issues of KIMS procurement, issues of such kind, issues raised just here. Yeah. Minutes pertaining to how you hired people, you fired people, minutes on how you did a meeting in Naivasha, that the one we saw on TV, just we are not interested in that one. It's just only minutes pertaining to what is in the audit only.
Chairman, we have not agreed on that yet. I think that's what the chairman was going to do.
Yeah, actually, we're coming back to that.
No, that is my opinion.
Oh, yes.
That's my
but
opinion.
Chairman,
yes.
Could I draw the attention of this meeting and the chairman to the Access to Information Act, Section 6? And that's why I was asking what part. Because under the Act, all information held by any private entity, any public entity is deemed public except...
The IBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, look at me mixing them up. I think my time is up. But before I close, thank you, Tony Watima, for speaking to us. We're speaking to Tony Watima, who's an economist and a columnist, and some good insight in terms of the KQ issue, what exactly we're expecting of tourism. But aside from that, there's a number of things that are happening before we even hand over to NTV Sasa, just to highlight some of them, to tease some of them. We have, like we've seen, Wafula Chebukati, who's before the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly. That is what is there at the moment. Aside from that, we also have the Senate Public Accounts and Investments Committee, who are grilling Embu Governor, that's Wambora, and he's the one who Paul has said has got more lives than a cat in regards to his stay in Parliament. Here, this is John Jireni, the Commissioner General of the Kenya Revenue Authority. This is the Taxpayers Day. President Uhuru Kenyatta has already arrived at KICC, where the event is happening. Likely that's what they were waiting for. That's John Jireni, who is the Commissioner General, and they're going to be awarding some of the best taxpayers. Over the years, Safaricom has topped, followed by Kenya East African Breweries Limited. We want to see whether that will still be the case of them being the highest remitting taxpayers in the country. And we also have the Senate Public Accounts and Investment Committee, which is grilling Wambora. And this is the governor of Embu, that's Wambora, who is being questioned in regards to some of the audit queries. He's said to have only given queries, audit documents rather, for 2013-2014 since he was elected, and this is his second term, which has not gone down too well with the senators there. And so we shall be having us cross to that's Kajwang, who's the chairman of that Senate committee. But at this point, as Kajwang continues to speak, we now cross over to NTV Sasa, and Salim Swale is in studio with me. Leo mazungumzia nini?
Leo tuna mazungumzo mapana kuhusiana na swala zima la ngozi na maradhi ya ngozi. Na wajua siku hizi swala la urembo limevuka hata kwa upande wa wanaume na upande wa wanawake kama kawaida.
Wanasema slay kings, slay queens.
Kama kawaida. Kwa hiyo tutakuwa tunazungumzia mambo mengi sana kuhusiana na maradhi ya ngozi na jinsi ya mtu kuweza kutunza ngozi yake, na hususan ngozi ya uso.
Hususan, you hear hususan, and hususan is not Susan. It's not a person, but that's been NTV Today. Thanks for joining me. Join Salim and Jen Goiri after this on NTV Sasa.